Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you've joined us. You can always find us at goodlifetelevision.org, where you can see all the full interviews of these great, wonderful guests we've had. And we also break those interviews up into what we call power clips, so you can find those at goodlifetelevision.org. Good Life is here to focus on the good stuff, to dwell on the good stuff, and to dwell and to talk with the people that are doing great things, and people who are overcoming, and people who are entrepreneurs, people who are leading well. So that's what we're here for, and we're so glad you're with us, whether you're on TV Santa Barbara or at goodlifetelevision.org. We welcome you. We're also on all the social media platforms you can find us, so hopefully you'll follow us there. But I'm really excited about my guest today, Jessica DeLarbra. Did I say it right?
You said it perfectly.
Okay, Jessica DeLarbra. She's the CEO of Habitat for Humanity in the area where we're sitting, which is Santa Barbara, California. A lot of you know Habitat for Humanity. We're going to talk about Habitat. It's a wonderful organization in a minute. But start with kind of just where you came from and your background, where you grew up.
Sure. Well, I'm a proud gaucho, graduate of UC Santa Barbara, and I'm from Los Angeles. And okay. I've spent about the last 14 years working in affordable housing. So I had a chance to return to Santa Barbara about 6 or 7 years ago to work in homelessness, and met my husband, and I've just felt really lucky to continue this kind of investment in helping our lower income neighbors with housing solutions.
Yeah.
Right here in Santa Barbara.
And so you left UCSB, you went back to LA?
I went back to LA, and I worked for an organization that was building affordable housing across southern Santa Barbara County. So for a while there, I let kind of the opportunity to build housing and work on workforce solutions guide where I was living. So that included Los Angeles, San Diego, and then back to Santa Barbara. Here.
When did you kind of fall in love with this, or when did you find a passion for housing?
For housing, I mean, housing is the solution, and the reason behind it is the people, right? So just a compassionate person, and growing up in Los Angeles, kind of the homeless capital, it just occurred to me that as a community, and this was really young, we had lost our sense of urgency because we got so accustomed to seeing people sleeping on the street. And so shortly after graduating UC Santa Barbara, I kind of started with workforce and social enterprise programs in Los Angeles, and then transitioned to affordable housing investments. So
yeah, it's so important. I mean, housing. I mean, there's the whole kind of housing first concept in terms of, but we're in similar spaces in terms of the housing thing, but it's just so important. I mean, in a society, in a community, the low income, the workforce housing issue is not really going away, is it?
It isn't, and I look at stable housing is the foundation for building upon all of these other community issues, right? And not just during the pandemic, but we look at the ability to keep jobs, healthcare, family relationships, and housing is that foundation.
Right.
So,
how do you do all that without housing?
Yeah, you can't.
Right.
And you know, our community issues are so complex. The solution is so simple, it's housing, right? But how to get there is the complex part, and I just thank you guys for the work that you do, and you know, honored to be alongside you today.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's wonderful. And you've done work, veterans issues. You've done lots of different. You've done disaster relief. In fact, your prior job was American Red Cross, right?
Yes.
What did you do there?
So American Red Cross is both a local and national organization. So I worked in the Central California region, which meant 10 counties ranging from Camarillo all the way up to Yosemite. And I was the regional disaster officer, followed by the interim CEO for those 10 counties.
Oh, really?
But I did actually work locally on the Thomas Fire and Montecito debris flow, and I ended up hopping over to Habitat in 2018, and Habitat did incredible work in terms of recovery efforts in the Montecito area as well.
They did?
Yeah. So.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they were involved even before, kind of right when you got there.
Yeah, so we did everything from, you know, removing debris with the support of thousands of volunteers to actually rehabbing some homes for homeowners who were low income in this neighborhood. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Thanks.
Let's talk about Habitat. So
Sure.
take us back kind of to where it started, the vision. Let's pretend like somebody's never heard of Habitat for Humanity
Sure.
and they don't know anything about the organization. Take us through it.
Sure. So, Habitat for Humanity of Southern Santa Barbara County is our local organization, and as the CEO, I report to the board of directors, and our area goes from Carpinteria up to Gaviota.
Okay.
And what I always kind of say about Santa Barbara is behind the veneer of prosperity, there are just so many people with unmet needs. And those needs are housing. And sometimes we see them living on the street, and sometimes you don't see the level of need or poverty until you open a door.
Yeah.
And that can mean overcrowding in homes. It can mean multiple families in a very small space. And it also means homes that are in disrepair, people who are house poor. They own a home, they're lucky enough to get that inherited from their families, but plumbing that doesn't work, holes in the flooring, holes in the ceiling. So Habitat since 2000 locally has been dedicated to building homes, communities, and hope. And we do this with the support of volunteers, and we build and sell affordable housing at an affordable mortgage. So there's a really strong self-sufficiency model. And we partner with our homeowners to build alongside them with both professional labor and volunteers, and we sell that home to them. So in Santa Barbara locally, we have 4 different housing development projects, and we're serving about 84 people, 50% of which are children. And then we have a vast home repair program. So we believe that there's just a continuum of housing needs, right? You have Section 8, you maybe have domestic violence housing solutions, and over here is homeownership, where kind of Habitat model lives.
Right.
And we believe we got to also keep people in their homes, those homes that are 80 to 100 years old and seniors are living in them, and it no longer suits their needs. So we're both building housing and preserving housing, and it's all thanks to the support of this community.
And so it's very volunteer centric.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the home repair part of what you do. I've always known Habitat is building houses.
Yep.
But that's interesting.
It is.
And has that been a long time they've been doing that, or?
It's not a new program, and I think also there's just a lot of community education and advocacy needed around helping people understand this issue. Being from Los Angeles, poverty is pervasive, and you can see it. And in Santa Barbara, as I said, sometimes you don't know what's going on until you open a door.
Right. Or you don't know that there's, I think, a couple thousand, maybe more, 18 to 24-year-olds sleeping in their car.
That's exactly right.
Or couch surfing, or in unstable living situations, which we've learned about.
And then people can have health issues, and those are exacerbated by maybe they're lucky enough to have a roof over their head, but the home itself is not suitable to support their health needs.
Right.
So yeah, that's where we come in, and it's a real honor to do that work.
I want to read the mission. So the mission of Habitat for Humanity, seeking to put God's love into action, Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Our vision, a world where everyone has a decent place to live. You're not going to run out of work, are you?
We aren't. And, I'm sure you relate, it's really hard work to do in Santa Barbara, in California.
Yeah.
And we just got to roll up our sleeves and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of your volunteers. I know you've engaged a lot of youth in what you're doing, apparently. If there's a parent watching this who has a young person who they want to see deployed into service in some way, talk about the way that you guys interact with youth.
Yeah. So, a lot of the housing that we've built has been family housing. So about 40 children living in our homes. The primary areas of our volunteer opportunities, because volunteering in construction is a crazy thing, right? You're like, what? You're going to take volunteers and help them build a house, and it's the coolest part of the model. So youth can help with our builds as long as there's a parent there. And then we've done youth education in schools around affordable housing as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I could just see it in your countenance. I mean, you really have a heart for people, don't you?
I do.
I mean,
we're all connected, right?
We are. It's and when you, I had an experience. 16 years ago, we bought a really tough apartment complex, and before we closed escrow, I walked every unit. It was 70 units, and I was shocked by what I saw in terms of. So it's not just like what I'm hearing is your thinking, your vision's not just for, okay, here's a low-income family, let's help them build a house. I mean, you do that, and that's wonderful. But you're also thinking about living conditions.
Absolutely.
It sounds like, which is that way. Walking those 70 units for me that time, I had no idea the kind of living conditions and the ways in which being a landlord or an owner, the power that you have to impact somebody's life.
Something I'm very passionate about, and I think so many of us in this community have been exposed to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But it's unbelievable what happens because, and I've tried to share this because I feel like it's been like a revelation or something, but when you do that as an owner, as a landlord, as an apartment complex owner, let's say, you impact the quality of life of the person. Their behavior changes. The sense of community changes. The crime
Absolutely
changes. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's so many, I don't know what the word is, tangential benefits or outcomes that come from just deciding that you're going to care about the living conditions of the people who live. I mean, are you tracking? Are you with me on this?
Absolutely. And I think it's our role to invest in dignity in those who we serve, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
in my work in homelessness or supporting people with chronic homelessness, if you support them by providing them with shelter that's really run down and the behavior that might happen in a facility versus providing something new where they can take pride in where they live, they're going to feel more motivated.
A whole different thing.
Yeah.
So. You know, it's like the antithesis of the projects. I was in Dallas for 10 years.
Yep.
And Dallas
exactly right.
Isn't it true? What we think about when we think about the projects is it's almost like caging people. Like in Dallas, there was 22 of them. There was 22 of these projects, and we were literally doing the opposite. We were saying we're going to do nice, we're going to do new, we're going to love them, serve them the best, we're going to get the best, we're going to, and see what happens. And we did, and crime went down 98%, and occupancy went up, and turnover went down, and all these great things happened. So I went to the head of the Dallas Housing Authority, and I said, please turn over your 22 complexes to me.
Yeah.
I have a solution. They didn't do that, but I wish they would have, because I feel like what you're talking about and what we're totally in agreement on is a solution that's completely different than a typical government project where bad things happen.
And diversifying our communities is part of that as well, right?
Right.
The approach with Section 8 to do scattered site housing, community integration, there's just so many models, and it's been interesting even the last 15 years to see how it's evolved and with all of our lessons learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like what we've learned and what I think is just true about human nature, what you described, when you put somebody in this context versus this context, what's going to happen?
Absolutely.
We've learned that. I feel like if that message was spread to more owners, that there could be really good things could happen.
And there's this trickle-down effect, right? Like you said, that it ultimately can impact neighborhood safety. So one of the programs also that Habitat does is neighborhood revitalization. And so we can recruit volunteers from local neighborhoods so that they're investing in their own community and do street cleanup and weed removal. And then the idea is ultimately you're creating informed stakeholders, walkable neighborhoods can ultimately reduce crime. So
yes,
it's pretty cool stuff.
Landscaping, lighting, there's so many different little parts to this that if you get it right, really good outcomes happen. Yeah,
and I think what we're focusing on in this conversation is we help the individual family, and then we have to look at the systems approach and tackle them at the same time. So
right, there's a lot to do.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
I'm not bored. Are you?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I'm always having new ideas. Like, how could we? But what is when you think about your vision? You're a CEO of a great organization with a lot to do. When you look out 5 years or 10 years, if you do, you probably do, like me, you're thinking about around the corner. What do you see? What would you like to see happen in the next?
I mean, the key thing that stands out to me in this community is innovation and looking at what's worked in the past, what works now, and little things like Santa Barbara, like we can run out of land. And there's an issue with, we know what the problems are, we know housing is a solution, and then we also know there's not enough housing. So how do we get together, cross-collaborate, and innovate and think about these solutions differently?
Yeah.
And I think that's the stuff that excites me. And then how do we get those innovations? Well, it's bringing, volunteers around a table who each are experts in a different area and creating that vision.
Working together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Collaborating. Because I think there are a lot of wonderful people thinking about this.
There really are. And the collaboration is key. Nonprofit, government, faith, and we've seen great things happen. So yeah, I get really excited about the opportunity. I think there's so many things being like, oh, we couldn't do this or we couldn't do this, and put on a lens that says we can, and get people together at the table and really be forward thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
that's wonderful. What is your website?
Yeah. It's sbhabitat.org.
sbhabitat.org
Yes.
is the Habitat for Humanity here in South Santa Barbara County.
Yes.
Do you do any fundraising events, or is there anything like that you want to talk about?
Yes, all the time.
Really?
All the time. And I'm sure you guys have thought through the same things. How do we continue to fundraise differently during a pandemic?
Right.
But we're helping a senior right now who has not been able to shower in her own home for a year plus, and she showers with wipes. And this is because she's aged in her home, and she uses a walker, and she can't get into a bathtub without falling. And so so much of the things our team is thinking about, we're going to help this woman, but it's because we're going to fundraise, and it's because incredible people in our community support this work, and we can turn around and say, like, yes, we're going to do this project. So we have the amazing foundations and individuals, and we do event-based fundraising, and we send the inspiring letters to the homes, hoping that someone writes a check.
Yeah.
And I
saw one of those.
When we get donations, I get inspired, and our team gets inspired, because it's the mission continuity right there.
And you're seeing real impact with the actual people on the ground.
Absolutely.
That people can support.
And the volunteers who come in, and Habitat Santa Barbara right now is a 5-person team. We can't do all this work without these amazing volunteers, and we have board members who are so skilled, and we have all these committees, and the committees do specialized work. So
wow.
What keeps me going is knowing who we serve, but also the people who are working alongside us to serve, and just knowing there's good stuff, right?
Yeah, it's good life. That's the program.
Yeah.
And it's impactful for the people who volunteer. It changes their life. I've seen I know you've seen this. And I've seen it too in Texas and here, where people who get involved in something greater than themselves. I just feel like there should be no bored people. If you're bored, go to sbhabitat.org. Come to the Turner Foundation. There's so much you can do, and it's so life-giving.
It is.
So it is about the person being served, but it's amazing what happens to us when we serve. It changes us, which is a neat thing.
Yes.
So once again, Habitat for Humanity, seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Our vision, a world where everyone has a decent place to live. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, the work that the Turner Foundation is doing.
Yeah, and we should work together.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll schedule that meeting.
Let's do
right
it.
after this,
That'd
right?
be good. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thank
It's awesome.
you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.